Internet connections are confusing because, let's say, for example, well, you have, because you're listening to me, you're on your computer and you've connected to Head Squeeze, and let's say, for argument's sake, that's on my computer at home. Now you think, your computer has got to connect through the network to specifically my computer out of all the billions of computers and smartphones and tablets and whatever that there are in the world. But perhaps an easier way to think of it is that they're all connected all of the time, and the system merely ignores everything else. That's a good way to think of it. So it isn't somebody running along with a cable thinking, where's James's computer? This bloke wants to watch Head Squeeze. There it is, clunk. It's not like that. It's connected and every other one is gone out. So it's all there and yet it isn't there. I hope that helps. I bet it didn't, did it?
What were some of the first things you did on the internet?
Well, I suppose by modern standards, I'm a bit of an internet early adopter because I've had it in some form or another since the late 80s. Well, no, yeah, since about 1988 when I started using it in publishing. But that was really specific modem connections. You really did connect your computer to another computer by putting in a string of numbers. And then obviously I got early email and had a go at some early browsers. But I don't recall what was the first thing I ever looked up on the internet. It's probably just as well I don't, because it was either something unsavoury or something deeply banal. It's probably best left to the evaporated entropy of internet history. Although I expect somebody's recorded it somewhere. Google's probably looking at it now. Do you see what James May did in 1987? Dirty bugger.
What do you mostly use it for at the moment?
I use the internet, I think, mainly as a sort of library. I think that's what's fantastic about it. You can look stuff up, and I know all the detractors and stuckists and miserableists say, oh, well, you can't trust the internet, it's full of stuff that isn't true. Well, there is a lot of stuff on it that isn't true, obviously, because anybody can put any old rubbish on there. But if you approach it with a vaguely academic mindset, which you should do when you're looking things up in books, you can look at several sources and see this stuff is starting to match up, that's somewhere near the truth, this other stuff is rubbish. And people who bemoan the internet and say, oh, libraries were much better, forget that books were full of rubbish as well, and they were full of things that are wrong. I know this because I've written 10 books, and I know there are things in them that are wrong. I mean, not deliberately, I just made mistakes, but they're in libraries and people will pick them up and say, oh, that's interesting. Well, it isn't interesting, it's incorrect. So nothing is reliable, and the great thing about the internet is an 8-year-old child today who's given an iPad or a smartphone for birthday will have access to 1 billion times as much knowledge as was available in the Great Library of Alexandria, and only a handful of people were allowed in there. So that can't be a bad thing, can it? More good comes out of the internet than bad. Other people say, oh, well, it's just a forum for people who want to tell you how to make bombs. Well, there are a couple of those, I'm sure, but for every one of those, there's 1 million people sharing their enthusiasm and knowledge of flower arranging or woodworking or model railways or the hits of Mark Bolan or something like that, and it just makes the world a happier and friendlier place. And you can't police it, and that's a good thing because it will help demolish oppressive regimes. End of rant.